Insurance fraud in the UK costs more than £1.2 billion a year. That's more than £3 million a day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing, and every year it's adding more than £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing a fraudulent claim every 5 minutes. Armed with the latest fraud-busting technology, including covert surveillance systems, sophisticated data analysis techniques, and specially trained fraud investigators, they're catching these chancers red-handed. Instead of getting away with it, more and more of these fraudsters are being caught out and claimed and shamed. Here on Claimed and Shamed, we've seen countless bogus insurance claims that have made our toes curl, with some particularly notorious cases standing out. This could be down to the sheer financial scale of the fraud involved, or because of the downright cheek of the claimants. Today, we've dug deep in the archives to bring you some of our most shocking stories. Coming up, the catalogue of lies told by a woman claiming she could barely walk when it was anything but the case.
She's so late that she needs to stick the walking stick under her arm and run. And she runs for quite some time.
The fraudsters perpetrating a racket worth millions, buying up empty wine bars with the sole intention of causing damage they could claim big money for.
What started as a one-claim investigation turned into being the biggest fraud conspiracy that we've seen.
And the con man blatantly fabricating his bogus damage claim in broad daylight.
This damage has clearly been caused when watching this footage by crashing into this concrete bollard.
But first, a chilling case from across the pond of an American woman who, following a bitter divorce, was prepared to commit the most heinous of crimes in order to get a massive life insurance payout. On the 27th of December 2016, officers with a search warrant paid an urgent visit to Canary Bird Cove in Herriman, Utah. Homeowner 69-year-old Linda Gilman had no criminal record. She had a hand in a few small businesses and was doing well financially. So why did officers need to see her? 6 days before Christmas, they'd received a tip-off from Christian Olsen, a handyman who worked for Linda. She'd been married 3 times, and Christian was suggesting to the police that the life of one of Linda's ex-husbands was in danger.
She approached me a few months ago about...
She being Linda?
Linda, yeah, about taking out her ex-husband, and said that, you know, she would pay all this money to have him taken out, and I kind of joked it off with her and laughed about it, and she kind of persisted from that point. Yesterday she had called me just freaking out because she has to pay more money out to his life insurance policy, and why isn't this done, and yada yada. And so today I dug through my truck and found the paper she gave me with his name and address and came over here to let him know.
So what was the agreement? What was she offering to...
She offered the $5,000 up front, and then after he was gone and, you know, that it was confirmed that she was going to give a portion of the insurance, life insurance policy on it.
Okay. Did she say how much that is, or...
$100,000.
That's the total policy?
No, the total policies are up in the millions, like at least $2 million from what I understand. And she's paying $15,000 a month on them.
And she'd offered to pay you $100,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dwayne Gilman had been divorced from Linda for 6 years, and he must have been shocked to receive a visit from a stranger telling him what she was planning. But he told Detective Adamson he was aware of one of the insurance policies.
I knew she had about a $500,000 insurance policy on me because I've had that through my work. I work for a law firm. I'm an attorney.
Okay.
I did not know there was more policies on me. If there is, I mean, more than that. It was not a pleasant divorce. It was a difficult one.
But they divorced years ago. So what had triggered Linda to want Dwayne out of the frame permanently?
Okay. So no recent contact or anything that would have started an issue between the two of you. There's nothing that...
I mean, it was approximately, I don't know, 9 months, maybe a year ago that the decree of divorce was modified to reduce the amount of the alimony from $3,500 down to what it is now, which subtracts out the amount she's getting from Social Security.
Linda was a beneficiary of Dwayne's life insurance policy, and her payments had changed. According to Christian Olsen, Dwayne was on borrowed time.
Did she specify how she wanted you to kill him?
In a way that it didn't look like he was murdered, like it was a drug overdose or something.
Okay.
Handyman Christian hadn't taken Linda seriously until she persisted. Now he felt duty-bound to suggest to the police that he could wear a wire to record conversations with Linda to gather evidence against her.
I need her to lead the conversation. You know, I don't want you to lead her into saying things. I want you.
Christian was under pressure to deliver, and Linda didn't disappoint. You can hear her on the wire recording giving Christian some jewellery, a ring. Her idea was that Christian could use this as currency for the person carrying out the hit.
You want me to try and get him for this? Just this?
That'd be nice, but be damn sure that he's willing to take that and tell you the promise. That if you went to a jewelry store and bought this from a jeweler today, it would be at least $15,000 and probably be closer to $22,000 now.
Later that day, Christian updates the detective, and they listen to the recording, which includes Linda coaching Christian on how to negotiate with the potential hitman.
Lay it out, and lay it out harshly. This is it. You screw up here, there isn't going to be any money, even if you take him out. If you screw up and there's an investigation that comes back to her in any way, there's not going to be a payout. Okay. That is the law. That's the law.
Okay.
It's a good start, and when Christian returns to see Linda with a wire again, she digs herself even deeper.
If it hadn't been in like a homicide, then it could be a wrong investigation. If it's clean and he's gone and it looks like natural causes, there's hardly any question. Insurance company can pay out, that's the end of the story.
She's confident and ruthless, suggesting that her ex-husband Dwayne is not the only one vulnerable to her intentions. His current wife is too, and Linda's willing to pay.
It might make it easier if she's gone too.
Really?
Well, don't you think? No witness, nothing. Another 10 grand.
I'm sure he'll like that.
It'll be cleaner if he takes them both.
With two people's lives under threat and money in the frame, the police had what they needed to arrest Linda and bring her in for questioning.
We're investigating a case where you're the suspect who has instigated a solicitation for someone to kill another person.
Who? Who and who? Who is that telling you this story, and who is the...
We'll get there.
Who's the...
We'll get there. You're jumping ahead in the story, though, okay?
Well, all right, tell me what's going on.
I'm getting...
It's clear she's keen on asking questions too. She did study at law school, and her ex-husband, Dwayne, warned officers she was litigious.
Have you been engaged in a conversation with anybody about having someone killed?
No.
You haven't?
No.
So when I play recordings of that conversation, what are you going to say? Where you're on the recording talking about it.
You're kidding me.
I have hours of recordings of you. Hours. You talking on a recording about paying someone to have someone else killed. That's what we're doing here.
In the last week?
In the last 24 hours.
Play it for me.
We're not going to play it for you right now. We're going to play it in court.
Linda shows skill at stalling for time.
Who would I be talking to?
Linda.
Who would I be talking to? Who?
Think about what you've done in the last 24 hours. Did you talk to anybody about having them make arrangements to murder your ex-husband? We're talking about you paying to have Dwayne killed.
Dwayne, it's
Yeah.
Dwayne. Play me the recording.
Why?
Because it's... Okay, you're telling me in the last 24 hours...
Wait right here for a minute. We'll be right back.
What did I do yesterday?
Just wait here. Have a drink.
An hour into the interview and the officers return, having made a tactical decision.
You listen to it and tell me what you think. Do you recognize your voice?
Could be me, but I... No. It could also not be me.
This will conclude the interview on December 27th, approximately 14:58 hours.
She's still admitting nothing, but it didn't stop Linda Gilman from being tried in March 2018. Not surprisingly, her plea was not guilty to both charges. After hearing the evidence in the courtroom, the jury reached a conclusion, finding Linda guilty of one count of criminal solicitation to commit the murder of Dwayne Gilman for his life insurance payout, though she was acquitted of trying to have Dwayne's current wife killed. However, the slippery pattern of stalling that Linda had displayed in the interview room continued. She managed to get her sentencing postponed 8 times. Finally, 7 months after her trial, Linda Gilman was sentenced and sent to jail, where she could spend the rest of her life. Here on Claimed and Shamed, we're used to seeing the antics of the less scrupulous, those who have no qualms about pushing the boundaries of what's legal or moral. But this next case shocked even us in its audacity, as the motorist involved goes to extreme lengths to ramp up his claim. Investigators at LV Insurance are used to dealing with inventive fraud claims, but admit the following attempt, involving a conman, a car, a carpet and a bollard, beggared belief. And it was all captured on camera.
Our policyholder contacted us to make us aware that she'd pulled onto a roundabout and collided with the rear of the third-party vehicle. She alleged that this vehicle had pulled onto the roundabout, stopped abruptly, causing the collision.
The policyholder, who was driving a Nissan, seemed absolutely clear about what had happened.
She said there was nothing in front of the claimant's car. There was no reason for him to stop so abruptly.
But luckily, this wasn't a high-speed crash.
This was a very minor accident, travelling at low speed. Our policyholder remained in first gear throughout. The damage reported by our policyholder was a small dent to the rear of the third-party car and slight damage to the front of hers.
The woman driving the Nissan, behind the man in a VW, was convinced this was a little bump, but the motorist she hit was telling a different story.
Approximately 2 weeks after the accident, we received a telephone call from the third party, alleging his vehicle was unroadworthy. During this telephone call, he said his vehicle had been that badly damaged it was no longer drivable and was a total loss at £3,200. We went on to receive a personal injury claim for him and anticipated receiving a claim for storage, recovery and credit hire.
That's quite a list for a first-gear prang, and there were more inconsistencies.
As well as the personal injury claim for the third-party driver, we also received 2 more personal injury claims, one for a male passenger, one for a female passenger. This contradicted the version of events that we got from our policyholder, that there were simply 2 male occupants in the car at the time of the accident.
Alarm bells were ringing for Matt, as this claim just wasn't adding up.
Based on the concerns raised by our policyholder, we felt this was an induced collision and therefore carried out a detailed investigation within our fraud investigation unit. We also carried out a forensic engineer's inspection of both vehicles.
The examination was well worth it.
The forensic engineer was very conclusive in these investigations. He confirmed that the damage could not have been caused to the VW by the Nissan. He also goes on to say that had those 2 vehicles been in contact to cause the damage to the VW, the number plate and the front end on the Nissan would have been totally annihilated.
Looking at the pictures, you can see this is not the case.
The damage to the front of our policyholder's car was very minimal. The front light had dropped down slightly, but otherwise the vehicle appears relatively intact. When we looked at the third-party car, it was a different story. The rear light cluster was smashed, the bumper had dropped down over the rear wing, and when we opened the boot, there was a large cross member across the back of the car, which was split in two, even though this was made out of steel. This shows the damage to the rear of the third-party car was some serious impact, and not consistent with the very minor damage on the front of our policyholder's car. Following on from receiving the engineer's report with the pictures of the third party's car, we took the opportunity to send these to our policyholder so she could look at them and give her opinion whether or not this was consistent with what she saw at the scene of the accident. On this occasion, she confirmed the damage was totally different from what she saw at the scene.
LV already had a strong case for turning down the claims made by the VW driver and his male and fictitious female passengers. But the company was about to receive footage that was pure dynamite.
To our surprise, we then got contacted to make us aware that CCTV footage had been recorded showing the third-party car being deliberately driven into a concrete block, causing further damage.
Why on earth was the VW, which should have been safely in secure storage, being driven into a block?
Here you can see the vehicle in front of the concrete bollard. You can see him getting the roll of carpet out of the boot and placing it over the concrete bollard. The driver returns to the driver's seat, drives the car forward, and then reverses at speed, crashing into the concrete bollard. He gets out of the car, goes round to the rear, and inspects any damage that is caused. Apparently unhappy with the level of damage that's now been caused to the car, he gets back in, drives it forward, and again crashes into the concrete bollard to cause further damage. Here we can now see him inspecting the car, opening the boot and looking inside to see whether or not the boot floor has been damaged sufficiently. Here we see the great skills of the security guard operating the cameras. Clearly concerned about what he's witnessing, he zooms the camera in on the registration number so we can clearly identify that this is our vehicle. Not only is this vehicle being deliberately damaged by this driver, let's not forget this vehicle should be in storage that we're being charged for.
He clearly had no idea his attempts had been caught on camera, but he inadvertently provided great footage that offered a proper explanation.
Having watched the footage, this is clear why the engineer was able to give his decision that the damage was inconsistent. This damage has clearly been caused when watching this footage by crashing into this concrete bollard. Whilst we had our suspicions that this was an induced accident based on our policyholder's version of events from the start, having seen this footage now, we're able to prove that it's part of an organised fraud.
The person wrecking the VW may have bought the correct kit to cover his tracks, but he didn't check he wouldn't be spotted.
Whilst this person looks like he's quite experienced by placing a piece of carpet over the concrete bollard so as not to get brick dust into the damaged parts of the car, he is somewhat naive, carrying out this activity in broad daylight under the view of CCTV.
The outcome was now a no-brainer for Matt.
From our policyholder's initial version of events, right up until receipt of the forensic engineer's report confirming the damage was inconsistent, everything proved to this being a fraudulent claim. We therefore declined it in full.
Later, cold-hearted fraudsters put innocent drivers' lives at risk by engineering a deliberate high-speed crash on a motorway.
The large 4x4 vehicle has had to take evasive action. It could have been catastrophic.
Next, one of the most complicated organised frauds we've ever featured on Claimed and Shamed. A con so sophisticated that it took a joint investigation spanning years to bring the perpetrators to justice. But whilst the scale of the gang's fraud was huge, the multiple claims being made were all for something really quite mundane. No one wants a leak or a burst pipe flooding their home, but claims for water damage are amongst the most common we make. To have an escape of water in your home is terrible, but if it happens in your business premises, it's a nightmare, as every day the doors are closed, money's not coming in, as the owners of a wine bar in Lincolnshire found.
We had a customer who submitted a claim for a burst pipe, which has caused considerable damage to their premises and stopped them from trading.
The wine bar appeared to have only been open for 2 years, so for a fledgling business, this was a bit of a blow.
A claim of this nature relies on speed. It's important, particularly with a business, that we have the claim validated as quickly as possible, repairs to commence, to allow the business to get back on its feet as soon as we can.
Zurich wasted no time in sending an expert out to get the ball rolling.
A claim like this needs a loss adjuster to go out and visit to establish exactly what the cause of the leak is and the extent of the damage and what needs to happen to restore the premises back to the way they were prior to the burst pipe.
The loss adjuster reported that the damage was substantial.
There was clearly a lot of repairs that were required to get the business back in operation. So we were faced with the repairs costs as well as the cost of the business interruption. We estimated this claim to be certainly over £50,000 at that point.
It looked like a genuine claim. So Zurich asked the customer to send in quotes for all the remedial work that needed doing.
There was documentation submitted for repairs, estimates for repairs, drying the property out.
But there was a problem.
The documents just didn't look right in terms of the way that they were presented, and therefore we carried out further checks.
Scott contacted the contractors listed in the documents.
The people who have actually carried out the work are usually only too willing to tell us exactly what their involvement was. In this case, we actually made inquiries and found out that documents were entirely fictitious.
Finding out that the documents were forged was a game changer.
It moves the claim from one of validation into investigation, so it was then really important that we carried out further checks. We made inquiries with the local council and found out that they had never granted a licence to sell alcohol, which should be pretty troublesome to a wine bar not being able to sell alcohol. So that immediately obviously raised suspicions further.
A business that wasn't even open. And Zurich also discovered the lease documents had been faked. Scott and his team dug further.
We wanted to find out how long they'd actually been in the premises for and whether they rented it, whether they owned it, etc. And it turned out that they'd actually taken a short-term lease, and that turned out to be in false names. At this point, our concerns are really significant because we've got false documentation, identities had been manufactured, we've got a wine bar that isn't licensed to trade. So we're really not sure exactly what we're faced with here, but what we're definitely not faced with here is a genuine claim.
Zurich then decided to get in touch with the wider insurance industry.
It turns out that they had other policies for these individuals, some of which were at the same premises as we were insuring.
That wasn't all.
There were other claims, very similar to this, with other insurers. At this point, we realised that we were onto something pretty big, and the real missing link was the scale of it. We decided to involve the police. The police have far greater investigation powers than we have, finding exactly who's involved, their various identities, the bank accounts that are connected to them, how many insurance policies, how many claims, who can be connected to each of these policies and claims, and really what evidence exists from other insurers. In effect, join the dots.
The police's investigations uncovered an organised fraud network based in London. Nyron Hughes, Ramon Carty, Tarquin Orgill, Kashif Bhatti and Jarrell Hales had cashed in on 15 fraudulent policies and had been paid a staggering £1 million.
The gang had access to 4 bars and 1 restaurant, and they took out short-term leases on these properties that were usually in a fairly poor state of repair. They would take a policy out and they would submit a claim under that policy for an escape of water.
And every time the cause was a burst pipe.
They had a number of policies and they had several claims at each of these premises. To make sure that they didn't overlap because they were dealt with by other insurers, they would find out who the loss adjuster was that was coming out to visit these premises. And if it was one that they'd seen before, they would make a call into the insurance company to say that they were withdrawing the claim because it was a problem that the landlord would fix.
Police searches of the properties also gave them vital evidence regarding the so-called burst pipes.
The way in which they created this leak was through a hose pipe, and it was fairly basic. Turn a hose pipe on in the ceiling void and cause significant damage. So there was a hose pipe left at one of the premises, and they managed to take fingerprints from that to show that it had actually been used by one of the accused.
Detectives also looked into bank accounts and saw that the money was being laundered through other accounts.
In effect, cleaning the money up that they were receiving from the insurance companies. These individuals were changing their identity, sometimes by deed pool, because the more identities they had, the more opportunity they had to facilitate this fraud. And they were intent on submitting as many claims as they possibly could, given how lucrative it was for them.
At the end of a 3-year investigation, the City of London Police had the full picture. The gang had targeted 14 insurers to net the £1 million payout.
The police identified evidence to charge 7 individuals with this fraud and ultimately went to court, and there was a full trial. The court, after trial, found that there was insufficient evidence to pursue against 2 of the accused, but 5 of them were convicted and sentenced, and they were sentenced to a total of 14 years in prison.
Three years on, finally, the wine bar racketeers were behind bars. And it was Zurich which had been instrumental in making sure it was last orders for these £1 million fraudsters.
When you investigate insurance fraud, nothing really ever surprises you. This one did, given the complexities and scale of it. To see these people stopped and brought to justice and receiving significant custodial sentences was a huge payback for all the time and effort that went into this.
On Claimed and Shamed, we've seen our fair share of workplace cheats who try to cash in on big insurance payments they're simply not entitled to. But the person in our next case is one of the most brazen we've come across. This worker had the barefaced cheek to put in a personal injury claim for almost £700,000 when she was actually fighting fit. There are almost 600,000 non-fatal accidents at work every year, from minor trips to serious injury, and the person at the heart of any incident could well deserve a hefty payout. A fact that some scammers play on, but at great risk. Ben and his team at QBE provide insurance cover to a range of employers, and it's their job to ensure no fraudulent claims slip through the net.
We were notified by our insured, who was a university, that one of their staff members had injured themselves whilst visiting the bathroom. It seems that they'd slipped and fallen quite heavily on their right-hand side.
The woman eventually required a hip replacement, an operation that led to months off work.
We accepted liability quite early on because, having investigated it, it seemed that there were some problems with the way that the cleaning had been done around the bathroom area. So we decided it was a good idea to try and settle the claim, and we made an offer of £24,000.
But this not insignificant figure fell short for the woman who had slipped.
When we received the final medical evidence from the claimant and her list of losses, the claim was potentially worth in the region of £690,000.
This was nearly 30 times more than the original offer, a huge difference. The woman put the ratcheting cost down to loss of earnings, pain and suffering, her need for a wheelchair and stair lift, as well as adaptations needed to her shower and car. The facts, though, just didn't stack up for Ben.
We'd been told that the claimant would have an excellent, if not complete, recovery, but we were now faced with what looks like chronic pain And there were constant periods off work where she was saying she was having difficulty with pain and lack of mobility. The next red flag we had was her lack of engagement. We tried to find out more information about her injuries, particularly given the concerns we had.
Usually, in cases like this, Ben's team would have the woman examined by a doctor, but she refused, a decision that raised more questions. With the employer liable for a payout of £690,000, Ben and his team had to be confident this case was legitimate. They decided on a course of action that would nail the truth about the woman's injuries.
We had suspicions and decided to undertake surveillance. Surveillance is really useful because it can show a contrast between what they're telling you and what's actually happening.
The woman said she needed a walking stick and had problems shopping since she couldn't be on her feet for longer than 15 minutes. So surely the covert filming would reveal someone in great pain who found it difficult to get around.
So you can see here, she's walking around with a walking stick, although she doesn't actually be seen to be walking with much difficulty. She's going shopping and she doesn't seem to need the assistance that she said she does.
Sometimes the covert footage showed no sign of the stick at all.
From what we've been told, we expected to see her struggling a lot more, needing to support her, but she seems quite independent from what we can see.
That was just the warm-up. Wait until you see what this apparently injury-ridden woman was getting up to with a pair of boxing gloves.
Here we can see her taking part in a boxercise class, which is very strenuous. Even though she said she could only stand for 15 minutes or sit for 15 minutes before having to rest, this exercise class is about 45 minutes long, where she's punching, doing squats and different other exercises which are quite strenuous.
The surveillance also captured more of the woman's behaviour. That was in stark contrast to her personal injury claim.
The most striking part of the footage that we have is where we see the claimant apparently late for some sort of appointment. She's so late that she needs to stick the walking stick under her arm and run, and she runs for quite some time. It seemed like somebody who was quite able to move around. So it further added concern that what she was telling us wasn't actually the entire truth.
The compelling surveillance footage was enough to convince Ben and his team that this woman was up to no good.
Once we were satisfied with our evidence, we submitted it to the claimant's solicitor. We withdrew all previous offers and we alleged that she'd been fundamentally dishonest. We also amended our claim to include an aspect of exemplary damages as well, so this is like a punishment. So our claim against her totalled £300,000.
QBE had turned the tables with a counterclaim, but this woman was determined not to go down without a fight.
Having received our surveillance evidence, the claimant's response was to fruitlessly try and argue that it didn't actually give a clear picture of her disability. In fact, her whole arguments were nonsense.
Action Woman was now on the ropes, and Ben's team could see the end was in sight.
We decided to take a pragmatic approach, having assessed her assets, and agreed to settle on £175,000.
The huge sum she had to pay would cover damages and costs incurred by the insurer when fighting this case.
£175,000 is quite a significant sum of money, but I would expect that somebody would have to remortgage their property to repay this sum.
So, in a dramatic turn of events, Action Woman went from being offered a £24,000 payout to having to pay up herself.
In addition to having to repay us £175,000, we also added her to the insurance fraud register. People like this claimant think that they'll get away with it because they don't appreciate what the consequences are, and they realise that insurers won't just let them get away with it.
When it comes to insurance scams, some of the most dangerous of all are crash-for-cash cons, which see criminals forcing traffic accidents with innocent drivers just to make a fast buck. Whilst this type of deliberate collision usually happens at low speed, the reckless gang of fraudsters in our next case showed no such restraint, a move that could easily have cost lives. Hastings Direct insured a motorist who got in touch following a frightening crash.
In April 2017, our policyholder called us in order to report the collision that he'd been in.
From what the motorist was suggesting, the prang bore all the hallmarks of a deliberate and targeted crash.
Crash for cash is a phrase used to describe incidents where individuals deliberately cause road traffic accidents so that they can then go on to submit fictitious or exaggerated claims to insurance companies.
You've got two different levels. You've got the opportunistic criminal who may just chance their arm, see an opportunity, slam the brakes on and try and catch the innocent victim unawares. Right up to the more organised crime group type activity where you've got a scam where they use decoys to try and legitimise what they're doing.
First, the gang members choose a victim. Then they move their two cars into position in front of the target. Gang car number 1 then slams on its brakes. Gang car 2 reacts by braking hard, resulting in a rear-end shunt from the victim. Gang car 1 drives off, pretending to be unaware of the crash.
These types of incidents take place generally at roundabouts and junctions at relatively slow speeds. This incident was unusual in that it was taking place at quite a high speed.
Not just that, but it happened approaching what is one of the busiest motorways in the UK.
Our customer was approaching the M6 slip road to join the motorway. As they accelerated towards the junction with the motorway, the very lead vehicle touched its brakes and sped off. The middle vehicle slammed its brakes on.
There were chilling consequences.
In this particular incident, a number of cars had to swerve into the path of other cars.
Normally, this kind of case is one driver's word against the other. But the motorist who'd crashed into the back of one of the gang's cars had a dashcam mounted in his car.
So this is the footage that our policyholder sent to us. We've got the suspect vehicle immediately ahead of him, and just ahead of that is the decoy vehicle. You've got two lanes and it starts to merge into a single lane. All three vehicles are travelling at about 50 miles an hour. The decoy vehicle momentarily applies its brakes. The suspect vehicle brakes extremely hard and our policyholder collides into the rear of it. What really makes this suspicious is the speed with which the two men exit the vehicle within moments. Highly unusual. In that instance, you would expect somebody to be stunned if they'd been injured, to take account of what's gone in the car. But the way they exited the vehicle was almost as if they were expecting it. It seemed to me that it was pre-planned.
The beauty of the camera on the dashboard is that you can see what happened before the incident. And it reveals some interesting behaviour in the preceding minutes.
The first really suspicious piece of activity occurs when they approach a set of traffic lights under the bridge. Both vehicles brake, but extremely late in terms of approaching those lights. And in fact, the lead vehicle is just over the white line beyond the lines. Then when the lights change to green, they begin to pull away, but then the brakes are touched again momentarily. And this type of driving continues all the way round. There's clearly something going on, and we can clearly say that these two vehicles are together somehow.
As well as this telling footage, there was another unblinking observer recording the unfolding drama.
We had dashcam footage from a witness who was two cars behind.
It's this footage which really brings home just how lucky everyone was to come out of this unscathed.
This was extremely dangerous. The large 4x4 vehicle has had to take evasive action, as does the witness. You can imagine a vehicle of that size and weight driving into the back of you at 50 miles an hour. It could have been catastrophic.
No one seemed to have been injured, but if this was a crash for cash, then Ian could expect some personal injury claims to land in his in-tray. And sure enough, the 3 occupants of the middle car were more fragile than they looked.
All 3 of them said they had whiplash injuries, injuries to the neck, back and shoulder, and also damage to the vehicle.
Hastings Direct was looking at a possible payout of £28,000. But the description of the incident from the 3 men in the car who were claiming didn't match the dashcam footage.
All 3 claimants were saying that the collision, or their driving at the time of the collision, had been slow. They indicated that they had been slowly moving up the slip road towards the motorway in heavy traffic.
You can see this is a downright lie. But if that strayed from the truth, stay with us. They weren't even sure about who was in the car.
There are actually 3 men in this vehicle, but one of the men present didn't submit a claim to us.
But the company received 3 claims. So who's the other one?
He was in fact what we would term a phantom passenger, never actually present in the vehicle at the time, and submitted the claim in an opportunistic manner.
With damning evidence like this, there was no hesitation in refusing the claims.
We wrote to each of the men's solicitors and we told them that we were not going to be paying them.
Not just that, this dangerous gang had to be dealt with.
I felt that this was a really good case that we could take to the police.
Given the danger posed by these men, the police were very interested, and this case was pursued through to trial, where the gang was tried on conspiracy to commit fraud by false representation.
All 3 men eventually pleaded guilty. They were sentenced to terms of imprisonment. 2 of the men, Hasnain Ahmed and Mohammed Azam, 25 months, and one of them, Sufyan Lone, the phantom passenger, 20 months in prison.
The innocent victim who was led to unwittingly crash into the gang's car will be pleased they're off the road. For now.
These men set out to defraud Hastings Direct in a manner that was highly dangerous. As a result of that, they were sent to prison, and I think that that is a fitting end to this matter.
Another shocking case of deception and a timely reminder that we all need to remain vigilant to the scourge of insurance fraud. From chancers exaggerating injury to criminal gangs engineering crashes for cash, these tricksters hit us all in the pocket. Every year, insurers lose millions to these scams, and it's you, the policyholder, who ends up paying the price in hikes to your premiums. But the sheer number of thieves caught in the act sends a clear message to anyone thinking about cheating the system. They claimed, but now they're shamed.